Now, this is a question you probably get a lot, being that you also teach the GRE. GRE versus GMAT.
Yeah.
My business school is open to accepting both of those test scores from both of those exams. Which one should I take?
Yeah, great question. What we've always said about it, specifically for the MBA or for really any program that accepts both, if you can get an elite score for your target program, whatever that might be. So whether it's an MBA, a master's in management, finance, whatever it might be, PhD program, on the GMAT, take the GMAT if you can get an elite score, because it is widely recognized that the GMAT is the test that aligns more closely to business education. Schools are by and large going to think of it as more impressive. You can get a great score there. GMAT tends to be more important in, let's say, MBA ranking systems historically. So if you can knock the cover off the GMAT, do it. Don't even think about the GRE. What we start to get into, and pretty much on a case-by-case basis as we advise students, is that human beings looking at test scores tend to have these visceral reactions to things. And 700 has historically been this important threshold to us in American education culture. And by the way, I think that's a problem. I don't think that's healthy at all, but that's another conversation for another day. So when somebody, an American person on an American admissions committee sees the number 700, 705, 700 plus, they have an immediate judgment. This person's great at this stuff. Round numbers matter. Do we understand the difference between a 725 and a 705? Not really. What does that mean? But we just kind of go, above a 700, that's great. And that's been a lot of the way admissions works. Not to say you can't get in below a 700 to great schools. Of course you can, especially on the focus. But we have these immediate reactions. Okay, the GRE is scaled differently. So both GRE sections, quant and verbal, on a scale from 130 to 170. What we've seen in MBA admissions over the years, and we're talking about elite schools, top 20 schools, let's say, is that 150 is average on each section, roughly. 170 is perfect, really hard score to get. There's only one more round number between those two. That's 160.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've seen for more than a decade now, since the GRE made inroads into business education, is when a strong candidate, we'll just say qualified candidate, not necessarily even strong for that school. When a qualified candidate checks the box by getting above 160 on both sections, the exam tends to become a non-issue.
Okay.
So usually if we see somebody who's qualified for the schools they're applying to in other ways, again, does the school really going to care that much about the distinction between a 163 and a 161? Not really. But if you can get past those round numbers so the school can say, okay, you've checked the box, you're fine. That usually does the trick. So long story short, notice I'm not talking about the differences in content or structure or anything like that, because when we advise people, what drives the decision is, where are you applying? What's the rest of your profile look like? What are you capable of doing on the GMAT? And if you're going to struggle to get to that elite GMAT score, we start looking at the GRE. And if we think we can help you get to something like a 160 or better on the GRE, and that's going to be something you can do faster, maybe more easily than getting to a comparable GMAT score, then yeah, you switch to the GRE. And in all honesty, for most people, 160, that's roughly equivalent to a 600 on the GMAT Focus, very roughly. I want to be really careful that the tests are different enough, but I don't want to say, hey, you get a 160 on the GRE, you will get a 600 on the GMAT. It's nowhere near that concrete, but in terms of very roughly on average, the difficulty, that's roughly the equivalence. But a 160 is probably going to do more for you in admissions than a 600 on the GMAT. So we end up steering a lot of our students who come in and say, hey, I'm applying to business school, I'm gonna take the GMAT. And if they're either very limited on time or they start to struggle, again, relative to where they're applying and the rest of their profile, we'll say, have you thought about the GRE? And some people push back and say, no, I'm going to business school, I want to take the GMAT. And we'll say, I respect that. That's awesome. Just to let you know, I think in the space of a few months of studying or a couple of months of studying, we're going to improve your odds of getting into business school more with the GRE than the GMAT. So again, if somebody can get the elite GMAT score, great, go chase it. If you're struggling, look at the GRE, and you generally want to think about it in terms of those score thresholds where somebody goes, okay, you've checked the box and you're good. So again, for elite MBA programs, 160 might be different for other programs where maybe they want to see 155s or 150, but it tends to operate for people more as kind of a vague threshold.
If you're ready to embark on the exciting journey of graduate admissions in the United States, make sure you're fully prepared by downloading our free ebook, The International Student's Guide to Studying in the United States. Inside, you will find a comprehensive roadmap detailing everything you need to know to succeed. So don't miss out. Click the link in the description section below to download your free copy now.